In this video, we're going to be reacting to some four-wheel drives that a fella called Boofs Outback Adventures 4x4 did. Now, Boof, I know of him, and I don't think I've met him, but I know of his channel and I've seen some of his content over the years. He's got 5,600 subscribers on YouTube, and this particular video is all about Widowmaker in Coffs Harbour. Did we make it up? That's the title of the video, so we'll have that link down below. You can check it out if you'd like to. But the purpose of this video is what can we learn about the drives that they show us in this video? How can we take what they've learned and apply it to our four-wheel driving? So Boof and his mates, they have Nissan Patrols, which are a very common vehicle here in Australia, and they tend to be fairly well built, you know, for road-going vehicles. That might be a little bit of a stretch to say that they're road going, but anyway, we'll leave that with Boof and his mates. They're running, looks like they're running the Maxxis Trepador tyres, and at least in this first video. So let's cut to this first video. This is Sydney sandstone. It's a very sandy type rock. It can provide a good amount of traction depending on how hard it is. This is sort of probably the harder end of the rock, I would say, but not the hardest. And so when you wheel spin in it, you can create trenches and holes, and especially the tyres like the Maxxis tyres. Now, these boys have aired down in the car park at the bottom of it. I didn't bother showing you that part of the video because let's just assume they have. Let's start watching as old mate starts to climb up here. So nice and slow, and he comes up to the first rock ledge. The right-hand side as he's driving is apparently the hardest line. Okay. So he's crawled in nice and slow. He's got the front to climb the rock step as we see, and you could just, if you pick it out, you can just see how the right rear wheel comes into that trenched out dug section that tends to happen on these sorts of climbs where basically the tyres trench out the rock a little bit. So he's got into that. Now when he's got into that, he's fed it and gave her all the numbers, and the vehicle started to bounce, and then you do hear that bit of a clang. I don't think he breaks anything. I don't think he broke a CV or anything. I suspect, knowing how patrols work, it was probably his coil spring unloading and then reseating, and that was the clang noise that we heard. So the good thing he did, though, once he sort of started to get that pig rooting, that bouncing effect, he got off the power and just called it quits and backs up. So let's continue watching him as he comes back. Okay, he's let the vehicle settle, comes back, drops the front down. Okay. And okay, so he's setting up for a second go, which is always a good way of doing it. You know, when you get into these obstacles, you've got a lot going on, you're driving a very technical piece of rock. You don't just go in there and keep sending it. Come back, have a fresh look at it. You've learnt something about the rock this time. You know, you've gone up, had a go. That didn't work. I'll need to change my drive style. I'll need to change something. What am I going to change? Okay, now I'd say at this point, I don't know what his tyre pressures are at. I don't know if he's running bead locks. They look like they might be. I don't know. But I suspect he probably needs slightly lower tyre pressures for this sort of climb. Anyway, let's watch him have a second attempt.
We're going to have another go, knowing Josh.
Oh, okay, so the driver's name's Josh.
Got it.
Well, he got up there and he didn't break his vehicle, so well done on that side of it. Some comments. I would have probably tried to drive it a second time at a similar pace to the first attempt, but I would have tried to see if I could pick a different line, put my wheels a tyre space to the left or the right of that hole, that rut. Obviously on a steep climb like this, you really want to make sure that the vehicle attitude is straight up and down. You don't want to get any sideways movement. And a really key important factor in this is you think when you're facing up, the load transfer is to the rear of your vehicle, so the rear axle is going to be carrying a lot more of the weight. Now you've got these two rear tyres, they come up to a rock step, and this tyre hits something first. This tyre is going to have enough traction to turn like that, and that means that your front will want to come across, and your front's light because you're up on this climb, so your front's got very little resistance to this effect coming from the back end, and that can mean that very quickly you turn sideways on the hill and all of a sudden you have a rollover. So when you're in these situations, you really are delicately balancing quite a number of effects and controls, and that's why the steeper it is, to a degree, the slower it is you want to go, and the more cautious you are about feeding the numbers and feeding the power. So I would have probably tasted that climb a couple of more times before I got to that level of momentum. But hey, Josh may know his vehicle. He may have driven this climb a number of times and just knows the climb. I don't know his level of experience. But another observation is, on that last drive, notice how much bounce he had in the vehicle, in the suspension. That's a fair indication that the shock absorbers are, if they're adjustable, they're not adjusted correctly. They're too soft, or they're worn out, or something's going on in that space. But if your vehicle's bouncing like that, your shock absorbers are not controlling the springs correctly, and therefore that means that your vehicle's, it's not as controllable as it probably could be for these sort of situations. So that's an observation, just something to observe and think about. Okay, so here's Boof in his fairly modified GQ. Modified as in he's just chopped it all up. Okay, got a massive departure angle on the rear, pretty good at the front too. So let's watch his drive, and you'll see, I think he must be running like a 37-inch tyre on here, maybe even larger. It's hard to tell exactly, but it's certainly a big tyre. But he's got extreme crawler gears in the vehicle, so either in the transfer case and the differentials, but he's got a lot of reduction, because you can hear how much engine rev he's got going on, and yet see how slowly the vehicle's crawling up the hill. And this is going to give Boof a whole heap of control. It's going to allow him to feed the power in as he wants, and back the power out really nicely, and that's why those low reduction gears are a really nice thing. You can see how Boof's tyres are moulding to the rocks a lot more than Josh's were, and so I think Boof is probably running a slightly lower pressure, probably under 10 pound, that's a guess. Okay, so he's backed off, coming to the climb, he's backed off the power, beautiful. Okay, a little scrabble. Okay. Okay, he's just looking for the traction. Nice. Slow RPM. Yeah, that's nice. So he's just a little bit of steering lock. Notice I was saying before about steering lock and the balance of the vehicle. So Boof's well aware of that. You can see that because he's on that steep climb, and you could see him playing with the steering, a little bit of right, a little bit of left, but he wasn't getting into it. He wasn't going full lock, because if he found traction all of a sudden and he had full right hand down in, all of a sudden he could be sideways on the hill. So, really controlled, very, very precise technical drive. I'm liking what I'm seeing here. Now, he didn't get up, but let's see what he does the second time. Is he going to drop the front down? That'll be interesting to see. No, he's not. Oh no, that was a restart. Okay, beautiful. So all he did the second time around was just a little bit of momentum. Just a little bit, and that was enough for him. That there realistically is pretty much a textbook climb for that, I reckon. A textbook drive. Really well done. All right, let's watch the last vehicle. All right, so old mate in his Trayback, he just drove right round it. That's always the easy way to get around it, isn't it? I hope that we've all learned something about the fine techniques that can be used when it comes to climbing really technical obstacles. And you might be looking at this and thinking, I'm never going to drive something like that. I've got a basically stock vehicle. All of these principles that I'm highlighting here can be applied to any vehicle driving any track. When your stock vehicle is requiring these skills, you'll be on an obstacle that doesn't look like this. It'll be a lot smaller and a lot more simple obstacle. So everything goes up together. The steeper the hill, the bigger the vehicle you need to get up that. But the principles are all the same. And so that's what I want to encourage you with, is learn the principles that I'm trying to impart to you and see how you can apply them to your four-wheel driving so you stay safe out there and have a really good time getting out there in the bush. Now, I'd love you to let me know in the comments down below what you think is going on in these sort of videos and what you could contribute. That would be really helpful to all of us. So if you've got a video that you'd like me to review and watch through and give you my thoughts, shoot it through to me in an email, madmat@madmat4wd.com.au, and I'll check it out, and if it's worthy of a watch, we'll watch it and we'll do a video and see what we can learn from that. All right, guys, I'm Mad Matt. Stay safe on the trails.